Good afternoon, everyone. Ben Harmon here. Thank you for tuning in for our Paying for College 15-minute webinar. As always, we're going to have a couple more this month and continue on. Be sure to check out our previous webinars from our Webinars Learn tab. You'll find previous ones we've done there. But this one is very unique for me because I know a lot of us have been going through a lot of different changes with the way that we might even look at school, especially over the past year. And so here are some standard blocks that will help you understand how paying for college and how it's done by a lot of people nowadays, even in spite of COVID times. So as always, a quote: borrowing to pay for college used to be the expectation, and now it's the rule, right? Our parents, my parents are well into their 60s, and they could have a full-time job and pay for school with that job and essentially graduate with no money. That's not a thing nowadays. But it's not as bad as you think. And we'll get more into the statistics of how people pay for college, what kind of roundabouts they're funding coming from different areas, but it is an expectation now that we do it. My only recommendation personally, whenever someone asks me about student loans, is take what you need, give back what you don't, but understand what the repayment schedule and term is going to look like. A lot of people borrow student loans, any of matter, whether it's subsidized, unsubsidized, Parent Plus, doesn't matter. Some of them have repayment schedules. Just make sure you know what that repayment schedule is. If you're okay with it, that's fine. I have very many examples of even a close friend of mine. We went to Western for the same degree. He graduated significantly more student loan than I did, and he was making $400 payments twice a month, where I was making around $200. So just know that yes, you can have fun in college, maybe not work, but it's probably best to take just what you need, give back what you don't, and so that you're not paying for it 10 years after you graduate college, which is what a lot of people are complaining about nowadays, but you don't have to be in there, and I'm going to show you how. So paying for college, costs are rising with strategic planning and savings. Paying for education can be within your reach. Regardless of your financial situation, there are always smart ways to plan and pay for college. And so there are a few different ways that you actually can do that. But first, let's do a little poll. So what do you think the most common way of paying for college is? Is it family and friends? Is it loans? Is it parents, scholarships and grants, or self-funding? So here are students paying for college, and they're doing it in the following types of ways. So 34% of colleges, so this is like the average student, this is how they're getting funding for the college in a spread. You'll see on our graph here, it's not just one solid cover. So we got 34% from parents, 28% from scholarships. I know this sometimes seems odd to people that, wow, I can, pay for a lot of school with scholarships. Yes, there's so many scholarships out there that if you just look, throw your hat in the ring, take the time to write a two-page paper, that you will do it. Arbor, we give out, we give out 12 $2,000 scholarships every year, equating to $24,000, and we've been doing that for well over a decade. So, and then we're not the only credit union, as you might know, that exists. And you don't have to be members of these credit unions or financial institutions or schools. And then some of them do come as later, like Pell Grants. So there are scholarships that are like you don't pay back, but they are totally a different one. And that's where scholarships and grants come into. 24%, believe it or not, is actually what's loaned out. And those loans could be a combination of subsidized, unsubsidized, or even Parent Plus loans. And so that's where the loans are coming from. And then self-funding, so 13%. And a lot of that 13% of self-funding is going to be covered under room and board, books, food, transportation, maybe your parking pass. So that self-funding, and when we look at college, we're looking at the whole picture, right? Not just what tuition costs, we're looking at all the costs. And we're going to dive into that here in just a minute. And then 1% is the family and friends. So what college costs should you consider? Well, besides tuition and housing, the average family spends an additional $1,700 to $3,300 per semester on other college costs. So when you're looking at what colleges to go to, I can understand not wanting to be in your hometown if you want to get away, but definitely still consider in-state tuition, or what a lot of people did, like I did, which is not saying it's the best way, but I went to community college for the first 2 years. Instead of paying $3,000 to $5,000 a semester, I was paying about $600 to $700. And those credits after the first 2 years transferred over. There's one strategic thing that I ran into that I didn't realize until I was doing it. When you transfer your credits from your first 2 years at a different college or community college, the grades don't transfer. So let's say you're going to do your general, I went to business, right? So I did my general business classes. at the community college. And then when I went to transfer, I had no GPA. So I didn't have to have a GPA requirement to get accepted into the school of business, where my friend didn't quite have a good enough GPA. So you had to take a semester, another $3,000 to $5,000 of blow off classes like gym classes and stuff like that to boost his GPA to be able to get accepted into the school of business. I, because I didn't have a transfer GPA, was just allowed to join. So definitely something to consider. You can definitely cut some of that cost down, but a lot of the cost of the 1,700 to 3,300 is living expenses, food, transportation. You know, are you out of state? Are there other taxes and things you have to pay? Housing, student center. So student center is like anything from, like, let's say you went to the doctors while you're there. Like a lot of colleges and universities have a hospital on campus that you can go to. It could also be student centers, like paying for tutors or additional education on those things where you need the other help. The book center, obviously books, we know they're not expensive. Consider renting your books. There's a lot of websites out there nowadays that will get you the exact same version for the fraction of the cost. And the best thing is you don't have to worry about getting ripped off and selling it. So you pay a low cost. When you're done with that semester, you literally just print off the postage and you send it back to them. You're done with it. You don't get anything in return, but I'll tell you, the price you pay originally is a lot less than you pay for a brand new book and what you will recover from trading that book in. Extracurricular activities, right? Let's say you join a club and there's a trip, right? These are things that are not necessarily needed, but when you think about, you know, when you're going to college, you're trying to make yourself more marketable, right? When you go to college, you don't want to not do anything. I know it sounds kind of broken, but you want to have a lot of stuff on your resume, right? You don't want to just go to school, get your 4-year degree and graduate. You want to have volunteer stuff. You want to have groups and outreaches and all these different things. And some of those extracurricular activities are going to cost some money. Parking and transportation. Some schools, freshman year, sophomore year, they don't let you have cars, just depending. I know when I went to Western, it was about $350 a semester to park there. So you're looking at $700 a year, definitely a cost. And then think about for yourself, you know, what other costs might you have? Is there any activities that are not college related that you still want to continue on from maybe high school or even something you did in your early times? What other things? Maybe, you know, the cost of going on a spring break trip is important to you. Or maybe going home for Christmas or the holiday season is important to you. So those are other costs you have to consider when you're like, okay, cool, I live X far away, I'm going to need X amount of money. And again, sometimes your parents will help, but some of us are not so lucky. So for all of us, there is financial aid option. The only way families can access the financial aid, though, is by submitting a FAFSA form. It's free. It doesn't take that long. It's just pretty much a verification of income from your parents. And so anybody can do it. And generally, everybody gets something, right? There's never anybody that's like totally out on it. Eligible students may receive financial aid packages that contain combinations of the following funding. So when you do file for FAFSA, you're given options of what you want to choose for. Now, I definitely recommend doing a little bit further research than I'm going to cover today, just to make sure it's the best option, but this will give you the general idea of what it's about. So you got merits and need-based scholarships, right? So if you're in low income housing, or if you've done some kind of good community service or something that gets you a merit, a lot of the ones that we're dealing with are federal grants or federal loans. So grants are something that you don't pay back. They're just money that's given to you. Another grant that familiar to people is called a Pell Grant. It used to be with a certain age, like at 24, 25, you'd get X amount per semester if you were a full-time student. Grants are great. Grants mean you don't pay back, right? It's even same with state and institutional grants. As I said earlier, we give out $2,000 scholarships every year. We don't expect those paid back. Now, when you do get that money, there are restrictions of how you spend it. Sometimes you have to prove that you did pay for, you know, room, board, education, you know, tuition, stuff like that. It's not just here's in your account and you get to go with it. Sometimes federal work studies. So if you go to school and you have some kind of close tie with a government agency, or like let's say you're working for the federal government and they want you to have a higher education, they might do a federal work study, which those are great. They're kind of rare. Again, very, very small thing, but it's enough to mention what they are, but they are generally very well subsidized loans. And does anybody know what the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized means? I remember when I was in college, this was very hard to just remember, but subsidized means that someone else, the government, is paying your interest while you're considered full-time. Unsubsidized means that you are gaining interest regardless of your student status. For example, I know that on average, it's like $10,000 a year for Western. At the common rate, if you borrow $10,000 a year, every $10,000 a year that you borrow is $2.68 of interest per day. Right? So if you borrow $20,000 at that 268 is now doubled and $30,000 is tripled. So as you get towards the end of college, you could be paying anywhere between $7 and $10 a day in interest. Think about it, right? So when you give in these loans, take what you need, give back what you don't. You will find yourself in a situation, sometimes not necessarily the first year, but generally sometimes the second year, you'll see adjustments of income. Sometimes your status, like maybe your parents aren't responsible for anything that you do, and so it'll be a FAFSA form for you. So you see these things change, but definitely give back what you can. You'll be thankful when you graduate college, get that nice job, and then a 30-year paycheck isn't going to your student loans. So how can building college savings help? No matter what time you have, even if you look down the barrel, again, you're going to college for 4 years on average, you can start saving for college for the last year, right? You don't have to use it right now. You can start saving for the last year, which I know seems kind of backwards, but there's our people that do it. But having a plan to save for college will greatly increase the chances that you or your children will go to college. 529 plans are great for college expenses. A lot of them are pre-tax if you have an employer, or if your parents are an employer, or if you're going to pay for your kids eventually go to college. 529 plans, 9s are the best. There's generally 2 different types of 529s, just depending on the area that you live in. So look into that. But in the nutshell, what it is it's pre-tax money that goes into a savings account that can later be drawn without paying taxes on it for educational expenses. Nutshell, they work a little bit different, but that's essentially what it is. It's also familiar with how an HSA plan or a health savings account works, right? You put money into it pre-tax. When you have health needs come up, you can use that money and you're avoiding that tax bracket, which is for a lot of people, it's about 25%. So you can obviously put $1.25 for every dollar you think you're going to save, and it's essentially the same on your paycheck. But 529 plans are great because they help you save automatically. They're usually pre-tax on your payroll stuff, so it just kind of happens in the back of your mind, right? Keeps building. It does get some interest, and so that's better than none. However, there's a lot of them, and a lot of them, the main difference is one, you're like prepaying for tuition, the other one you're just kind of saving, so you don't know. And then when do you start saving for college? As soon as possible. Again, not just the amount you save, but the number of years you save is also important. So again, you might be thinking, I'm going to go to college, or maybe you're going for doctoral school, right? And residency gets more expensive. You can start saving now for that and building up some of that interest. So how much does the child need in college savings? Well, if you plan on attending send your child to a 4-year university, the rule of thumb is to see where they stand in college savings by multiplying the age of your child or yourself by 25. This will estimate then, kind of roughly how much you need for just 1 year of college. And this is assuming the child attends a public university, because out-of-state tuition starts getting very expensive, or public, and that you're earning some interest. So here's what I did. So my child is 13 years off from college. We have some money saved. And so you'll see at a 4-year public university, I need to save about $6,369, or times it by 4 would be something that would be about the cost of what I need to save. Now, again, if you are going to college currently, your best bet is to get those scholarships, get those things right now. But again, don't sell your short on saving some money. Like, right, if you have a job and you're working through college, save some money. You'll be thankful if in the 4th year you go to reach, and if there's maybe only $1,000 in there, that's still better than nothing. It'll help offset costs. We know as you get closer to the end of your degree, your classes get harder, right? The first 2 years, gen ed, maybe some dabbling into your degree, but it's the last 2 years that get harder, specifically the last ones when you're doing your cornerstone classes. You might want to cut back on work at that time and concentrate on school. Provide yourself that opportunity. So again, you might not be able to save right now for college, but you definitely might make it so that you can take your last year off of working, or work very minimal to concentrate in school to get that higher GPA. So key points about paying for college. College is an investment in the future, and increased costs can mean finding creative ways to pay for it. Here are a few points to keep in mind. Considering all the costs, a lot of times people look at tuition and board and books, and that's it. There's a lot more that comes to it, right? Again, we've covered it: transportation, travel, extracurricular activities, a lot of different things that you need to consider when you're looking at the cost of college. Estimate out-of-pocket expenses. So again, this is important, but also very doable. So out-of-pocket means something that you're not going to get tuition for. So you fill out your FAFSA form, you find out how much you're going to get, and you see, this is how much I need left. Estimate what savings plan would take to get that. And then know your options. There are many options for student loans and building college savings. Some you can start now, some you can use in the future, but there are a lot of different ways. But again, turn up all the stones. Reach out to your financial institutions, reach out to other places. A lot of times you'll see billboards. I know I even see other credit unions post about their scholarships on billboards. So do consider that. Generally, the people that didn't look have it the hardest to find, that they didn't see anything that would help them pay for college. But the ones that you've seen, like I've seen people clean up shop. They'll do 10 scholarships and get their first year paid for. So there are a lot of opportunities. And even though if you haven't filled out yet, there's still time left before school starts, but do look at it. I don't want to say it's a government website, but there's definitely websites that will list ongoing scholarships for our area or whatever area you live in. And so definitely use your resources, jump on Google, do some searching now. So that's all I have today. I definitely want to thank you for tuning in. This will be recorded and sent out so you can review it. As always, be sure to check out our other webinars. We cover a lot of different topics between securing your information and different budgeting techniques, as well as caregiving and saving for the future. So thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We'll see you back soon.